How's it going there, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Seestar equatorial firmware update, which is of particular interest for those of you out there wishing to use this thing for astrophotography more than anything. And by astrophotography, I truly do mean nighttime astrophotography. If you want to do solar work, that kind of thing, really you are going to still need to be using this in Alt-Az mode, unless you've already got a daytime polar alignment established at nighttime that you can then perhaps use during the day. I've kept this thing completely fresh, so it's new to me, and let's just dive in basically. So the first thing you want to do is, of course, make sure your Seestar is up to date. I'm going to go ahead, turn on anti-dew, navigate to advanced features. I will change the enhance exposure length a little bit before we actually get going with this, as once it's in equatorial mode we should be able to get longer exposures out of this thing. I have heard some people reporting that 20 seconds is probably the sweet spot, as 30 seconds you get a bit higher loss rate really from the S50 in particular. But I'm willing to play around and play around with it and try it. So just going to click on the mount mode now, and it is going to try and talk me through this, but I kind of know what we're doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get somewhere I can pop my phone screen down and keep an eye, because you can see it's giving me like a real-time readout of the angle of the Seestar. So I'm just going to keep going down. Power button's facing up, so towards me, looking south effectively, the power button right now. Keep going down, down, down. And we are closing in on the current latitude that we need. So 55 degrees, drop it a little lower. 54, 55, 54. We're on the cusp of being just about correct in terms of elevation, I'm guessing. So next up now, we need to click switch, I do believe. Okay, and get the polar aligned deviation. It's going to unpark the scope now and take a look at a few different points of the night sky. And in doing so, it should be able to figure out its position and then report back to us our amount of current error based on what we're looking for, which is perfect alignment with the axis of the Earth's rotation, basically. Okay, so it appears to be pointing high in the southwestern sky right now for its first point, I assume. Now it's just passed through meridian, it's pointing high in the southeastern sky for its second alignment point, and maybe it'll take a third, I'm unsure. It's moving now, and it's looking still very high in a circle around Polaris, more towards the east now. I imagine, there we go, we're really actually quite close. All I did was line up the body of the Seestar beforehand with Polaris. But it appears that left, right is very, very good. We need to just go up a tiny bit. Now this is made tremendously easy, really. Given that I'm using one of the Skywatch wedges right here, it's made the whole process, well, as you've just seen, this is the first time doing it live, and it took moments, right? So it's not a difficult process by any means. But there's a few things about the wedge from Skywatch which you're probably going to want to be aware of if you are going to use one of those, and that is the bottom of the Seestars, of course, uses a 3/8 tripod thread. Not every tripod shoe you're going to use. If you want to attach it to a shoe for like a ball head or something, you may need a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter, depending on what kind of plates you're using. But for traditional astronomy wedge like this, it does just go on comfortably, but you will have to change the locking bolt for the dovetail, basically, as it can collide with the bottom of the Seestar. It's got little rubber feet on it, basically, and as it rotates around, you would potentially have it hitting those. So that's just one thing to be aware of course. I'm going to close out of this. We're now in EQ mode, so we're set up, actually, by the look of things. Excuse my unfamiliarity with this now. I know some people have been trying this out for a little while, but to me, it's completely new. Now I have to say, we've got some thin clouds around tonight, but particularly up in Ursa Major, there's some well-placed targets for tonight which I could try out. Before that though, let's try to make the most of this, and we'll go with 20-second exposures. I reckon that'll do us do as well. Stargazing, and I think why not just go after, yeah, M51, let's give that a go, right there. So if I hit go to, let's see how comfortably it navigates to this now. So it's gonna have to go right the way to the northeastern sky now, which is, it's all looking good, it's moving correctly. Let's see what it discovers. So it's found the object, it does appear to be pointing in the right direction, I do believe. So all we need to do now is wait for it to finish its basic initialization, where it's going to go through, and I do believe it kind of calibrate itself a little bit further, so we're going to get better results as we're going through the night. Once it's finished with that, I'm just going to stop what it's doing initially and get a perfect focus myself. It will trigger an autofocus before it starts, but I like to use one of the Batinov masks that I make and sell, as that ensures there's no error involved whatsoever. You just put a Batinov mask on, focus, and that's it. You know it's perfect. So there's no guesswork whatsoever involved. There's no worry about whether the autofocus algorithm is robust enough or not. So once we're finished, we can basically kick things off and let it have, well, as long as it wants really, on this target tonight, and just see what we can get. It should be interesting to see how EQ mode works, and I will report back in with you soon. So just as I'm editing this video together, I wanted to make an extra segment here to talk to you about some more of my experiences with this thing, as it's quite important what I'm going to talk about. And I want to just try to avoid any tears being shed for anybody at any point, because there is quite a significant tip over risk basically with the Seestar in equatorial mode when used on standard tripods. So such as, if I just take a look at this next tab for you a moment, the tripod that comes naturally with the Seestar S50, this little carbon effort right here, it's very stiff, it's very light, but as you can see, when used in Alt-Az mode, with the Seestar mounted directly on top, it's no problem whatsoever. The center of gravity is directly above the center of the tripod. If you introduce equatorial mode to this, you're going to need a wedge, and then you're also going to be tilting this thing forwards significantly, depending on how far north you live, basically. So if you lived at the North Pole, it would look like this on its equatorial wedge. If you live near the equator, it's going to be pointing a heck of a long way forwards, and that was going to pose even higher of a tip over risk. Now, what I'm getting at here is you can just about get away with the Seestar S30 on the S50 standard tripod, so that small carbon tripod, as long as it's a full extension and you're using something that isn't going to significantly shift the center of gravity of the Seestar far forwards, but already it's at quite a high tip over risk, I think. And I certainly would not use the Seestar S50 on a wedge on the tripod that it comes with. It's just asking for trouble, unfortunately. Now, I've also seen people using, such as these, leveling devices underneath a wedge. That's totally not necessary. I know not everybody's going to know this kind of thing, but this is only for, it's only got any use for alt-azimuth mode. You're just wasting your time if you're trying to level for equatorial mode adjustments. It's not needed. The best way, I guess, to describe it would be that level on a globe is just a local concept. Level for me right here, if I get something perfect level, for a guy living just 1 mile down the street, that wouldn't be level for him, right? So none of this matters. What you need to do is just make sure that the scope's rotation axis is lined up with the axis of rotation, and that's all. How you get there doesn't include leveling. So yeah, the only thing that leveling can do for you on an equatorial setup is avoid having to make compound adjustments where you need to go, let's say, in azimuth and altitude. I never found it a problem, so I just wanted to let you know about that, because using something like this is going to push your center of gravity even higher. You can also see in some places people are making like these adapters, which is a good idea in and of itself. So this is a Seestar S50 mounted on a William Optics wedge right there, and you can see the adapter clamps into the saddle on the wedge, pushes back the center of gravity of the Seestar to make it kind of more central with where it's going to connect with the tripod. It's pretty good there, but also it adds its own extra problem where you're raising the center of gravity significantly once again. So that kind of thing is not perfect. What I really do think is the perfect solution is to just get a bigger tripod, a bigger, heavier tripod. That's really all you need, and all your problems go away. It is going to work better as well on a heavier tripod. That's my main advice anyway. That's the whole reason I've got it on a heavier tripod. just to make it safer and work overall better without having any of the extra issues, meaning you need to dip into your pocket and buy more parts and try to fix things, basically. So that's what I'm getting at, and I just wanted to kind of make you aware of these points about the Seestar, and just make sure you're hyper aware about the possibilities of tip over, because these things are heavy. Let's face it. So a small gust of wind could put your beautiful new Seestar in the dirt, unfortunately. So yeah, just watch out for that. Right then, guys, so we're a little while on now, and just picking things up from where I said we would. I'm now showing you a quite deep stack overall on the Seestar S50 screen. So this is just with no processing applied to it right now. If I just pan around the screen a little bit, you can hopefully see what it's been capturing. There's a lot of background galaxies becoming visible, and overall, I'm pretty impressed by the amount of detail it's managed to capture. This is before, like I say, before any processing. Now, it's fair to say that the internal processing options on the Seestar and the app are better than they have been by a long way, but they are still overall quite limited. So I think now with the advent of this EQ mode being added, we can actually get a little bit more serious overall about the Seestar images that can be done. But if you can just take a look here, you've got an option where I click the AI denoise button, and it really has done a pretty good job. If I just zoom right in on M51 right there and hold the compare button for a moment, you can see it before and after, and it is doing a good job. And if we zoom out a moment as well, you can also see a strong gradient going from bottom left to top right across the image, as well as a couple of banded gradients, it appears, that are present. But the AI denoise also seems to fold in a type of background extraction, I want to say, something like that. It's not bad, but there it is. Now, I think the fair thing to do at this point would be to get the Seestar in, put it back on charge, and pull all this data off and go ahead and try to stack it up ourselves manually using something like AstroPixel Processor or pixinsight, that kind of thing, and go for a proper processing run at this data. We can be a little bit more selective then as well. The Seestar's certainly not done a bad job at all. If I just save this thing out, I can obviously compare side by side later on, but it's done a not bad job whatsoever, to be honest with you. But I think if we're a little bit more careful with the frames that get actually stacked, we could probably get a better result than this, especially if we pass it through pixinsight and all the tools. That should be some fun. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead, finish up what I'm doing with the Seestar, and we'll take a look at that after some more processing. Now then, guys, I've stacked the data, done some processing in tandem, and I'm going to take you through it. And I've also dug out one of my very old images of M51 back in 2019. By no means my first image of M51. I was probably a few years deep into astrophotography by that point. But I want to show you it because I think it's a really interesting comparison. But before we get to that, I'm going to take you through the different steps of this data. So this is the stacks as they would output. So on the left, the APP stack made up of 344 20-second subs. As you can see, I did choose to, cull quite a few subs, and it worked. It made the overall full width half max available on this image lower. So it's, it's sharper as an image goes, and also it's done a better job really of rejecting some of these, let's say, satellite trails and things like that that's passed through the frame. So that's what the data actually looks like, unstretched, of course, in its base form. Here is the data after just some very basic processing. So this is being cropped, color calibrated with spectrophotometric color calibration, and a background extraction has been applied using GradientXTerminator in both of these cases. So it's still linear data, it's not yet been stretched or anything like that. This is what it looks like before the next steps of processing are applied. So anybody could get it to this step, I would say. Next up, still completely repeatable, all this work. So now this is with the data with BlurXTerminator, NoiseXTerminator applied to it. So if I just show you what the difference that makes. So before BlurXTerminator, for example, after BlurXTerminator, after NoiseXTerminator, and this is just preparing it for later processing steps. I'll show you the finished images in a moment, but it had a wonderful effect on both images. It's just, I would say that looking at this as close as I possibly can, it is worth manually stacking your data. Even though the stack just as output from the Seestar is pretty good, it's definitely worth that little bit of extra effort to get an overall sharper, less noisy stack, I think. And once again, as you can see, BlurXTerminator off, on, NoiseXTerminator on. It really does prepare the data wonderfully for the next stages of processing. If you want to check those tools out, by the way, I do have affiliate links down below. I would really, really appreciate your support through those if you choose to give them a go. Trials are available too. But here is the final images. So these are processed now in full, if you like. So I've worked through and applied some more saturation to these. Selective curves have been applied by removing the stars with StarXTerminator and then popping them back in afterwards. I stretched both of these manually with generalized hyperbolic stretch, took the data as far as I felt comfortable doing so in both of these cases. And if I just zoom in a little bit for you, so this is a 5:1 view, you know, really, really quite far in on both of these. As you can see, it does look like the finer details are coming up better on the manually stacked one just over here on the left. It seems like a lot of kind of really small details are showing up on this one that aren't quite as clearly resolved on the right, but both are good. I think we don't want to lose sight of that fact. Both are actually amazing, really, given the equipment that's been used to capture these. Now, I think this is going to be an interesting little thing just to show you right here. So I'm going to close down the Seestar's output right there after processing. If I just open up for you, this is I thought this was a really good image back in 2019, M51, 87 minutes, so actually reasonably comparable integration time, but this was taken with a HighPointScientific 127mm Apo on an EQ6 with a 183 MC cooled by QHY. And as you can see, you know, this is the processing that I was able to apply at the time. Obviously tools have came on a lot, so too as my own processing knowledge and tools I have available to me, including pixinsight, which I didn't have at this time. So it's fair to say this data could be taken further than the Seestar data. Of course it could, but that's not what I'm getting at. What I am trying to show is just how far Astro has came in these past few years. I mean, we're now looking at an image from the Seestar on the left right there, which knocks an old image of mine, which I thought was really nice at the time, into a cocked hat. It's not even close. I would say there's far more signal to noise ratio in favor of the left shot right there. This is a noisy mess by comparison just over on the right. And I just found that was a little bit mind-blowing, to be honest. You can see more of this tidal extension has been able to be stretched out of this image. The noise is gone thanks to the wonderful tools that we have access to today. And I think this brings up a further talking point. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but with the quality of software that we have access to us today, just admittedly, you've got to pay for it, such as, you know, the purchase cost of pixinsight, the Xterminator tools from Russell Chrome and that kind of thing. What you get back is the ability to take your images to the absolute bleeding edge of what is in them, and it's not that hard these days. It's a repeatable process. I try to demonstrate it as much as I can in my own images and share what I've learned with people out there who are interested in learning and doing the same thing with your own images. It's just honestly quite shocking, I think, what we can do with data at this point. And I'm all for it. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to see what the next 6 years, you know, the gap between those two images brings. I can't quite imagine what the hell we're going to be able to do, but I hope it just keeps moving forwards like this, because I'm having more fun than ever, and I love the fact that you don't have to invest thousands upon thousands upon thousands on a telescope to get, I think, pleasant and satisfying images. This is, to me, a pleasant image of M51. I would have been over the moon with this back in the day. I'm over the moon with it now, you know what I mean, given the fact it was taken with a smart telescope, especially. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and a huge, you know, round of applause to ZWO for introducing the Seestars as good as they are, and particularly how much work they've put into the software on these. So the equatorial mode software changed the game a little bit for me. I think it's well worth the extra effort to set up, especially given that you're going to get results something like this, especially if you have the tools. Wonderful. Anyway, I've gone on at length as usual, but I hope you've enjoyed this little demonstration, seeing kind of what's new, what's possible now these days with this little smart telescope. It's fairly astonishing, I would say. So even if your skies are pretty poor, like my own here, Ball 7 Skies, you can still do a lot and find a lot of interesting little gems hidden in your images too. And everything's possible. The universe is your oyster. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and apologies for the slightly chaotic nature. It's very, very hard for me at the minute to properly plan a video, given that I'm so busy just with dad stuff, basically. I hope you'll appreciate my apology for what it's worth, and looking forward to making lots more videos for you all the same in the future. So yeah, look after yourselves. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you for your support in all the ways you give it. I'll see you in the next one. Clear skies.